And welcome to this edition of the Global Crypto Market Analysis. It's actually been a very long time, and we do apologize for how long it's been. It's been far too long, but finally we have Graeme back in the seat with us. We have had the great privilege of having another great analyst, Paul Francis, as well, who's been fantastic with his analysis. He unfortunately is unavailable this week, even though he's in town. But we've got Graeme back. Graeme, welcome back to Market Analysis.
Hi, James. Yeah, good to be back and with the viewers, and looking forward to going through a couple of charts. There's lots of activity has happened since we last spoke, to be to understate it.
Yeah, to understate it indeed. There's a lot going on at the moment. I think the big question at the moment is what exactly is the health of the market. Just before we get there, though, I do want to make mention of our sponsor this week or this month. Our sponsor is Paxful. Paxful are great supporters of global crypto. Modibe, you can check him out. Modibe BTC Coffee on Twitter. Modibe is Africa's coordinator for Paxful. Paxful are one of Africa's leading P2P or peer-to-peer Bitcoin wallets. They're doing great work, so a big thank you to Paxful, our sponsors. Graeme, let's jump straight into it. We do have a couple of questions from the audience as well, so we'll get to those. For now, your first chart, when you're ready, you're welcome to pull up your first screen, but I think the overall question and the overarching question is, how close are we to a top? Is there a turn? I think a lot of people have been having this question, which I think I'm gonna ask later. For now, let's get straight into Bitcoin USD and tell us your overall outlook right now.
Yeah, great. So I always like to start off on the bigger time frames just to give context of where we've been, because that obviously helps us understand where we're going. So yeah, I mean, this is the crypto markets 2017, all the euphoria, going to the moon. Then we had the bear market, consolidation, quiet period for a couple of years. And we spoke repeatedly about this symmetrical triangle that set up. We called it quite early. It's played out beautifully. We've had lovely moves to the upside. I mean, I've highlighted 10K as a significant level, 20K, 50K, and this is where we now sit, and we've been trending sideways for a fair amount of time now. So, and it's just really interesting just to identify, let's call it the market cycle. So Bitcoin is the OG, it's the old dog. It went first with all its exuberance. It led the pack, and you'll see now when we have a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. Bitcoin dominance was really in full flow, and only once it's rested has it really given the permission for the altcoins to move. So we go through these different stages in the market cycle. And I mean, for context, we spoke about this blue area to buy into. We spoke about this orange area, and I love that meme with everyone standing outside the store, wanting to buy Bitcoin at $3,000 or $4,000, and there's no one there. And then you've got the store wanting to sell Bitcoin at $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and the queue is a mile long. And that's a little bit of the market psychology. So I think it's worth just looking, just taking a moment to ask exactly what you mentioned. Now, where are we in the market cycle? How much further do we have to go? Are we starting to hit the top? And we are starting to see some signs that there could be some momentum running out. But broadly speaking, looking at the Bitcoin chart, this is where we're at. So the big next question now, if we go down, let's go down a little bit lower to a 3-day time frame. This is the sideways movement that we've got here. It is a little bit concerning that these are slightly rounded. These the areas where the market has topped. So it's clearly facing some resistance at the 60K level. Between 60 and 50K is where it spent quite a lot of time. I mean, the main question is this just a consolidation period for continuation of the bull market, or is this the start of the top? So there's the question. No one has a crystal ball. I certainly don't, but it's something that we need to monitor. my broad expectation is that this isn't the top, but I do think that we could have a fairly substantial drawdown from these areas, or period of consolidation, depending on how it plays out. So my what do you call it? My view on the probability is that we still have further upside, but it is definitely a time to potentially take some of the risk off the table if you have been exposed from very low down, and potentially take some profit. You can always buy in later if it becomes clear that this is only continuation.
And with this kind of consolidation, does that give credence to alt season?
Absolutely. So let's just jump straight into it, because that's where a lot of the hype and attention has been directed. So this is the chart that I really like to look at. So this is the Bitcoin dominance chart. So where are we? So let's just, for some context, try and align where we're at. So there's March 2019. We really broke out around October 2020. So if we try to identify those spots here, there's March 2019, if you can see where I'm clicking there. So their dominance was around 65%. Let's call it 2/3. So 2/3 of the crypto market cap was in Bitcoin. Then we hit October 2020, and you can see this is when Bitcoin was in its early stages of moving, and it went all the way from, let's call it 60% up to 70%, topping out around 73. So that was a real stage of Bitcoin dominance. That's where you want it to be allocated. And only now that it started to move sideways has it really given license for the alts to go. And haven't they done that? I mean, look at the market share that's been taken from Bitcoin. We crossed 50% the other day, and it just seems almost no sign of stopping it. This is a head and shoulders pattern. So technical analysis is remarkable in my view into how many different markets that you can apply to. Even a derived market like Bitcoin dominance, it has value. So that's a head and shoulders, a neckline, a break to the downside. This was the target. But when you have very big impulsive moves, often those targets are overrun, and that's what we've had here. So I did have a target at around 50%. We're now at 44%. So in my view, the alt dominance is a little bit overextended. It's had its time, and I think it's in almost borrowed time. So I am personally looking to move funds out of altcoins, big picture, and allocate higher weightings to Bitcoin. And I have been doing that since 50%, slowly shifting some funds across. So far, that hasn't played out profitably. I would have been better sticking to Ethereum in particular and some of the other alts. But I'm happy to be early rather than late, and happy to hold that higher weighting towards Bitcoin, because I do think that this trend will reverse at some point in time.
What about ETH for you? The rather intriguing chart has been ETH-BTC. I'm not sure if you had it. Yep, there it is. ETH-BTC is some people have been questioning whether it can regain its all-time high. Do you think that's possible, given how parabolic it's gone in the last 3 weeks?
Cool. So this is how I'm looking to play this. So, and again, this was a chart that we highlighted a couple of times on previous market analysis shows, and this was before this neckline was broken. So I've put the neckline here at, let's call it 0.04, so 4%. And this is not market cap. This is the actual price. So this is an inverse head and shoulders. So we actually got two patterns here. So we've got a falling wedge, which was a long-term period where Ethereum lost value to Bitcoin. You then got marginally higher low. So that's these red circles here. So that's a bullish sign. A break outside of the top of the falling wedge. And that was a signal of a macro trend change. So this goes all the way back to 2018. Some people say that technical analysis is only for short-term execution. In my view, you just have to look at bigger time frame charts to get a view of bigger trends and movements in the market. So this has been a great tool for identifying the macro change in trend from Ethereum weakness to Ethereum strength relative to Bitcoin. So that's the one pattern that we had, and then we've got the inverse head and shoulders. So if I just draw here quickly, there's your left shoulder, there's your head, and that's your right shoulder. And there were a couple of false starts, and it did get a little bit messy, but ultimately this is paid off, and it's paid off really, really strongly. And we said, like I mentioned, that the expectation was that Ethereum was going to be one of the major winners in this bull market. And this latest uptrend that we've had the last couple of weeks has proven that to be correct. So yeah, where to from here? So this is where I have drawn my neckline. The target that I've got, we've basically just hit it. So I have reduced my Ethereum exposure fairly substantially. The target, let's call it 0.07. I think this is a good time to take some profits. If it runs further past that target, then again, I think it's in borrowed territory. Well, some of the move, yes, potentially, but for me, I'm very happy to bank some of the gains that I have made in Ethereum, which have been substantial. Can it go to previous highs? Look, I think it needs a wind up. It needs a period of consolidation, time to rest first, if that is going to happen, and we'll play it from there. But yeah, my net out is I'm looking to reduce my Ethereum exposure. It's done exceptionally well. I'll need to see a consolidation setup and a rebuilding of momentum in order to get excited to get back in to take out the previous highs.
And what about any of the other alts, now that you have taken a bit of ETH off the table, and a lot of people looking at some of the BNB and Binance Smart Chain projects? Yeah. There's a lot of hysteria, which has gone beyond hype. It's now almost hysterical at the moment, the way things like these meme coins are going nuts at the moment. Have you looked at some of those alts? Is there a bit of speculation that's worth experimenting with, or is it just not for you and you're kind of looking back from a distance?
Cool. So I'll get into that. Let me just quickly last touch on Ethereum here. We can see it's a meteoric move. So from the start of the year, you would be up 300%. Essentially, that's a fantastic return. This is shooting like, this is a big selling week here. This first one we've kind of seen on a 3-day basis in a while. So that's your first type of proper sign of exhaustion. So again, another reason I'm looking to take some risk off the table with Ethereum. So I think that the chance of it pulling back strongly are higher, but obviously it's very volatile. So I mean, it could continue to carry on to the moon, but I'm happy to give away some of that.
Well, I think that's that's the difference between a cool head and an emotional trader caught up in the hype. A cool head has a couple of birds in hand, as opposed to wanting to try and catch every bird in the bush. And that's really the difference. I mean, the markets could very well go parabolic continuously, but it's now extremely risky, and it's probably not worth the risk if you've already done well.
Yeah, 100%. So I often find with investing that the entry is the easier part. I again trade this, for example, the contraction of this volatility. When I see the ideal time to be looking to enter the market, and unfortunately, your typical retail investor, that's they're not watching the screen because you're not seeing the big numbers or the news headlines. That's really where you want to be focused in and looking to pick good entry points, expecting the expansion of volatility that you can benefit from, and then being comfortable once it's done really well to take a step back and say, look, now it's very speculative, and now it's highly volatile. This is a time where I want to be taking my chips off the table rather than putting more chips on the table. So that's where I'm at in Ethereum. And look, if it continues to moon from here, I'm quite comfortable to sit out of that next leg. And I think that as time goes on, you'll be profitable more often than not with that type of approach.
Love that point. Entry is more important than that line again. Entry is one of the most important things.
I think it's easier. I mean, your exit is really important too. it becomes difficult. Your exit is difficult because
that's right.
when it is going parabolic, it's hard to know when to pull the trigger, and you're never going to, well, I'll say not once ever, you won't very regularly pick the perfect top. You're just not going to. If you're having swings of 10, 15% a day, any day could be the last day, and then it's got a 15% correction, and the next day could be another 10% down. So to bank what I've got at this stage seems like a logical decision rather than looking to pick the perfect top. Is essentially my approach.
All right, so we are just under 15 minutes into it. We wanted to be about 20. What else do you have for us before we get into the questions?
Okay, so I do want to run past Binance because that's been another great winner of this bull market. I've actually favored generally Binance ahead of Ethereum during most of it. So that was from, I don't know if we picked the same period. We probably didn't. Let's just go from the beginning of the year to compare to Ethereum. So Ethereum was up 3x. Binance is up 118, 1,800% or 1,800%. So it has outperformed Ethereum even, Binance. So this has been my personal biggest winner of this bull market. And I think that it's looking attractive again against Ethereum. So this was the outperformance of Binance, because this is the Binance Ethereum chart. And these relative charts are great. They really do give more insight and context into where you should be allocating your funds. This was Ethereum now recently taking market share back from Binance. We're now hitting what I expect to be a critical area of support. It's in line with this previous breakout. There's also high volume by price at this level. So I've looked to shift some of my Ethereum exposure across to Binance. And again, that I might be a little bit early, but I think in time, Binance, the bull will reassert and potentially again outperform Ethereum.
Wow, it's remarkable to think what BNB has done. I remember we were experimenting with an SA crypto before we rebranded to Global Crypto. We were an SA crypto group, and we had a little VIP trading group we experimented with. I remember a trade going out back when it was $9 for one BNB. I mean, that is almost, it's 80x. If you had held on that long, which needless to say, I most certainly didn't. It's just remarkable to think how these markets have grown. That was, fair enough, that was 2 years ago. No, it was 3 years ago. So it's, that's a long hold and a long play.
Sure.
Shout out to someone like Tyrant. Tyrant has held ETH for 2 years. But these long plays, it's just phenomenal to think of the returns.
Yeah.
Graeme, I saw you had Doge. That's one that's cooked. That goose is cooked, surely.
Definitely wanted to touch on Doge because it has been so high, at such a high profile. Again, we've got the squeeze, the contraction of volatility. It's offered amazing entry points. I missed out on this earlier one. I actually put on the group, I don't know if you remember, I said Doge is going to go to $1. Or no, sorry, I said 10 cents.
Wow,
no,
I do remember.
No, let me correct myself. I said $1, but it was a typo. And someone commented and said, no, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I said, yes, sorry, I meant 10 cents. And I think he still was probably quite skeptical that it could get there. And look at it now, it's at 50 cents. So I was wrong by the difference between 50 cents and 10 cents. So about 5x wrong, understated.
Yeah, and it just goes to show what the hype can create. It's incredible, and that's where I kind of get a gut feeling that there's still a lot of juice left in the engines, because there's a lot of hype yet to happen, as especially not only Coinbase, but the Robin Hoods of this world listing the likes of Doge and a couple of other coins. It just brings in retail on a mass scale, but that's another topic for another day. Is there anything else you want to take us through, Graeme, before we get to a couple of questions?
Let's just finish off on Doge. So I do think that this is a bit of a rounded top. So that's not the same continuation type structure that we've seen on a number of occasions on Doge. So word of warning there, but this could in time potentially set up as another opportunity, but not an entry for me right now, but definitely one to keep an eye on. I think Elon Musk has got a plan for this. He's kind of a mad scientist type of vibe going there, but I think he's potentially got a plan. He's big enough, he's rich enough, he's influential enough to make something happen here if he wants to, and that looks like that may well happen, despite what other fundamentalists may say about the coin. And then last one, James, we can jump into some questions. Just Ripple. So this is the other one I'm keeping an eye on. I don't think Ripple goes through this bull market without having its say. I don't like Ripple personally. I don't like the project, the underlying fundamentals. But if it's going to move from $1.50 potentially to its all-time highs, $3, who knows? It could go higher. I do want to be on that train if it is leaving the station. So I think we're potentially getting a wind up here. And as again, the market cycle. So you got Bitcoin. It's now slowed down. You got Ethereum. I think Ethereum has potentially run its course. Doge has done something. I think Ripple could be the last one potentially to go. That's a big statement, take it with a pinch of salt. But if Ripple does start to move, and I think a balance of probability it will move higher from where it is now, substantially so. That for me is one of the signs of the last stages of the bull market. If you look at almost this cycle of each coin almost having its time in the sun, I think Ripple's time is still coming, but could be one of the last ones. So if we get a further bit of contraction here, some squeezing, I'll be definitely looking to enter and get some exposure in around that region if we get further contraction of volatility. So not a trade right now, but definitely one high on my watch list.
All right. Well, there we go. Amazing stuff and really insightful. Really great to have your insights again, Graeme. Just before we get into, I think there's only a few questions, maybe two from what I can see, but I'm going to ask my one, which is just around hyperinflation and how that impacts the current state of the markets. We are seeing such a mass flood of liquidity coming to all forms of asset classes, whether it be the equity markets, bond markets, even now commodities, crypto assets as well. Will not this continuation, this continued train of hyperinflation keep these markets being cooked for some time to come?
The short answer, yes, is my view. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest driving factors, if not the biggest driving factor behind the bullish crypto market that we've got. And we don't just see it in crypto, we're seeing it in the stock market. It's on many metrics, all-time high valuations. We see it in the property market. The bond market is probably the source of this everything bubble, because the bond market is essentially new money is created out of debt, and the bond market is the debt market. And another stat, I don't have the chart up now, but 25% of the total US dollar money supply, 25% was created just last year alone. So one out of every $4, one was created last year, and the dollar has been around for how many hundreds of years? 25% of the full supply was created almost in the last 12 months. So that is just epic money creation. And law of economics says the greater the demand of a good or a service, the less its value. And that's essentially just what's happening to our money supply. And it's not just the dollar, it's happening across fiat currencies across the world. So I just see that the full financial system is essentially unraveling. I think these are some of the signs. And Bitcoin and crypto is a way to opt out. It is the other side of the trade. Bitcoin is limited to 21 million coins, less the coins that a whole lot of guys lost and continues to depreciate at some stage. But the fact that it's capped, it's deflationary, it's a great potential hedge against a failing economic system. So yeah, you're pushing all my buttons there when you start talking about potential inflation and money supply.
Well, forgive the users who may be watching and can't wait for their question to be answered, but what does that look like, Graeme? When the reset happens, what does that actually look like? Is it a resetting by the governments, by the American government to, if we look at Zimbabwe, for instance, they went over to the US dollar. What does the US go to? What do they do? Do they have to reset their currency? How does that work economically?
So that, well, I don't know. I mean, I can make some guesses, but so when we talk about the reset, it's not a single day in history where we're going to look back in history and say this was the reset. In my view, the reset is happening. We are in the process of the financial reset, and I think Corona kind of accelerated that process because it's been a call for global action, and it's calling into question. You know, you've got the World Economic Forum already talking about the financial reset, and you know, this coronavirus pandemic being the crisis to unite the world and being the catalyst. I just have my concerns about the motives behind, you know, the individuals and the powers that are driving that. But look, I think central bank digital currencies is potentially a big part of that reset. In my view, you know, fiat itself in its current form, being debt-based, its time is running out very quickly. You've got to look at the US debt clock, look at you know, the scale that we're creating money at, the very low interest rates that we've got. We can't even get interest rates above 1% before the market pukes. So these are all signs of a sick and failing economic system. Plus, then you've got on the other side, you've got the economy and investors realizing this. And where do you see that? You see it in Bitcoin. You know, the price is almost a voting mechanism. Bitcoin has done exceptionally well. Why? Because, you know, in many ways, institutions, individuals, corporates are concerned about holding their funds in cash, and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are an alternative to that. So this is all elements of the reset, and it's playing out, in my view, before our eyes right now. If you just look for the signs, they are all there. How does it actually, you know, materialize in the end? Potentially, it's a battle. I think it's a battle between whatever the governments and powers of the world have in mind for a new financial system, for a new currency, which I don't think portray elements of personal and economic freedom that I value, and I think that we should value as a society. And that's what Bitcoin offers. It says you can be your own central bank. You are in charge of your own finances. You do not have to comply. So that's what that offers, and that's, you know, why fundamentally I'm so excited about the opportunities that cryptocurrency does offer. And, you know, regardless of the actual outcome and how it plays out, you know, Bitcoin is where I would place my bets, along with, you know, some precious metal. Other than that, your options are quite limited. So yeah, maybe that gives you some context to
very much so. Very much so. I think we're going to have another live stream, or actually an event where we can sit down and explore these in greater detail. Okay, so Graeme, the first question from the audience comes from, where is it gone? Comes from, it's disappeared now. My apologies. Here we go. It's from Saurav. Saurav, hey there. What do you think of alt pairs against ETH? Is it time, and you kind of answered this, but it's worth revisiting. Is it time to move some of our ETH holdings into alts, for example, LTC, because LTC against ETH and BTC is nearly at the bottom with a greater risk to reward ratio?
Yes, I think again is the short answer, but then be selective. So Saurav has obviously done his own research into Litecoin. I haven't got it available right now, but if that is looking more attractive, relatively speaking, to Ethereum, now that Ethereum has run so hard, I think that's a decent decision. And I mean, rebalancing is always an argument for rebalancing your portfolio. You know, when you do have an extreme outlier, you know, if I had a 10% allocation to Doge and Doge did 10x, you know, it's not 10% anymore. It's potentially 50% or 60 or 80%. So I don't want to necessarily be 80% exposed to Doge and then looking to reduce that. The question is, where does it go? So if you've identified Litecoin or some of the other alts as decent options, then definitely worthwhile. Personally, I've shifted it to Binance and to Bitcoin. Again, I would be cautious about which alts you are allocating into, because in my view, again, the altcoins run against Bitcoin is overextended. You know, we had that head and shoulders target, it's been overrun. So I think alts in general are in borrowed time against Bitcoin. So a move back to Bitcoin, in my view, is not a bad one.
All right. Next question. Any comment on stock to flow for Bitcoin? I'm a believer, but would like to hear another opinion.
So yeah, I mean, the stock to flow model has been generally pretty accurate in its price valuation. I think at the moment, if I'm not right, we are overextended to where the stock to flow model says that the price should be. We are higher than that. And yeah, I think that's part of my view right now. And going back to the first chart is that I think I'm not expecting Bitcoin to shoot to the moon and continuous bull run in the next days or weeks. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to build up a little bit of more momentum. And that might bring that stock to flow ratio closer in line. So maybe I haven't looked at that chart in big detail recently, but maybe we need some time for that ratio to come back in line before we see Bitcoin moving again.
If you make me a host, Graeme, I'll share my screen and just take you to the latest chart that was just published by 100 Trillion today. So I'll wait for you to make me a host so I can share my screen. The wonderful thing about Zoom that you have to be a host to share.
How do I make you a host, James?
You need to click on participants, the little friend people participants at the bottom, and then on the side you'll see those participants and click more and then click make host. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Right, there we go. So you can see here, he's actually said, we want all models to be broken and $100,000 Bitcoin now. He's saying, look, basically, guys, the truth is that it takes time. Some investors with 5x profits last couple of months, they don't care about the Byzantine general problem or ECDSA, SHA-256 or P2P. They trade numbers on the screen. That's what Graeme has always been telling us. He's always told us that technicals trump fundamentals, right? So a lot of traders are going to be looking at numbers on the screen and taking profit. Patience is a virtue. So basically what this is just confirming what Graeme's saying here is that, you've got to give it a bit of time to consolidate here before it catches up with the stock to flow model. I think pretty much validates what you've just said.
Yeah, and if you go, so that's quite a long-term chart back to 2010. If you get a shorter-term chart there, you'll see that the price has run further than where the model suggests it would be. So yeah, just another reason to potentially exercise some caution. This is not, in my view, the time to be, what does Roll Powell say, irresponsibly long Bitcoin. Now is the time to, I think, execute a little bit of restraint. And like I said, if the market does set up again for the next move, there's nothing stopping you getting back in when things become more clear. But right now, I'm happy to wait for the market to give me the next go ahead to get involved.
Absolutely.
And look, that's not to say all out. Sorry, just to clarify, that's not to say I'm all out. I do have my core holding in Bitcoin that I'm sitting through. I'm just talking about you should have different almost pots. So you should have your investment pot, your medium-term pot, and your short-term pot. So my medium and short-term, I'm looking to keep a decent chunk of that back, but I still obviously have my core holdings in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and that's really it for my core holdings. But always prudent to look to trim some of your profits and take those chips and that risk off the table when the market is essentially giving you that instruction to be a little bit cautious.
Yeah, Graeme, I don't know if you'd be. We'll probably talk about this another time, but I mean, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to. Let's stick to the users. Let's stick to the users here. Paul Francis, welcome. Finally, great to see you actually here. I've actually got to run, everyone. Last question here from Bitcoin. He says, what are your thoughts about all the arbitrage services popping up in SA? Bitcoin, I just want to say that Graeme has officially been representing Stewards Financial for over a year on SA crypto, just everyone to remember that. And they spent 2 years building it before they were legally allowed to go public with it. So I shouldn't say anything more before we get into trouble. But Graeme, what are your thoughts about all the arbitrage services now popping up?
Look, I can't speak for any other services other than the service I'm involved in. So that is with Stewards Financial Custodians. Stewards Financial Custodians is a regulated financial services provider. So that's who you do face as a client looking to invest funds. So I think that's a major tick box. They're the only ones I know of. I might be wrong, but yeah, you are dealing with an accredited provider. And yeah, look, the returns generated have been fantastic. We in the SA community, we called it the worst kept secret for a long time. I don't think it's a secret anymore. I think everyone recognizes that Bitcoin is more expensive in South Africa. So if you can buy overseas in foreign currency on one of those offshore exchanges and sell locally in South Africa, there's profit to be made. So that's what we look to exploit in that strategy. And it's money for jam. We've made the process really easy. You've got your offshore allowance. Most people don't use it. So in my view, it's a relative no-brainer to look to take advantage of that, especially if you are familiar with the crypto space and you don't need to cross that barrier to appreciate the opportunity.
So it's a great opportunity for me to share a punt here. Why not do that? So guys, if you want to get involved with a regulated group of guys, you can actually speak to Graeme direct. You can DM me direct. I'm james.preston@globalcrypto.tv. Graeme, he's on our WhatsApp groups. You can contact him if you want, but whether he answers is another story. I'm going to see here, stewardsincap.com. That's the website over there. And I know actually the CEO, Bilal, is actually watching this right now. But there's the website, stewardsincap.com.
And capital, so it's abbreviated to ING cap, yeah.
And so you just enter your email address and then your name, you accept the terms, you're not a robot, etc. And there's all the intros here. There's a whole bunch of videos here, which Graeme, myself, Bilal, the CEO, explain how it all works. And then if you do actually sign up, I just ask you to enter a code. You get fees waived if you use our global crypto code SFX131. SFX131. It'll be great to have your support, guys. So I'm going to add that in there. And again, we've been I'm adding that in the YouTube comments there. And again, Stewards and Global Crypto have been partnered for well over a year to make this a reality. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I need to move on to another meeting. Graeme, this has been fantastic. It's been so good to have you online again. And hopefully we can do this again soon, and maybe something in person. It would be great to get the community back together.
100%. So yeah, let's take advantage of these non-lockdown times and spend some time face to face with some members of the community and yourself, James. Looking forward to that.
It'll be great. All right, man. Graeme, thanks so much. Guys, as a reminder, this episode proudly sponsored by Paxful, the leading P2P Bitcoin wallet in Africa. Thanks for your support, Paxful. Graeme, until next time, and everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Cheers.
Cheers for now. Cheers, James.
Bye.